Alright, fuck it, bro. I will do this over again and just talk about shit in different ways and whatnot. So, let's look at the pistol round, right? We're just going to be looking at Elige and Elige only. Clearly they're playing a default. And what happens here, I mean, we never get to see what Liquid wants to do because CLG wants to set the tone. And people have talked about how, like, it was an interactions thing. But this is clearly a broken play on Liquid's part. CLG pushes in and kills people. You're not going to get to see entry frags and any kind of role-based CS when, you know, they decide to just push pretty much 3 people into mid-warehouse and entried makes the mistake that was addressed before of interacting from the back of mid-warehouse instead of Nitro doing it. But, okay, this is an anti-eco. Now, again, this is a very similar strat to what Envious would run on Cash, where they have Smiths and Shocks throw these smokes and these flashes, and then they actually make the first interaction from door after on that flash, and everybody who's in A main would basically be clearing forklift, and then the other players would come and try to get into the NBK position. But again, I think what's important when we're defining roles is to not look at like ecos or look at like, you know, even like spawn-based buys. So I mean, if people are spawning and executing, again, this is their default. Elige clearly is responsible for A main. I think Fugly was responsible for B main, but CLG decided on the first gun round they were going to set the tempo, and they pushed 3 people into B main. That was pretty cool. Like that, I got to give respect for Cutler for that. But, you know, 4v5, this isn't necessarily a broken play. And you're going to see that now they're calling to go into A main. Now, you'll see Nitro isn't peeking anything. He's just sitting there. Elige actually starts peeking into main. I mean, you could say Nitro maybe peeked a little bit into checkers. But this is clearly a round where... sorry. Elige just made the first entry. They ended up... I think they ended up losing this round anyway, just on virtue of how low Nitro was. So they ended up losing the first gun round, and I think here they decided to buy. Now, this is a half Tech 9 armor buy. You see everybody else. This is Elige isn't lurking here. Everybody else is pretty much, look at their utility. They're supporting Elige by throwing all these smokes and flashes. Elige is the gun who's supposed to be going in once they bloom. But you see, now they start throwing counter flashes. This is CLG throwing counter flashes that backs everything up. Now Fugly throws another flash and they go on that flash. Elige is actually coming out first. The way they went out, you're not necessarily, it doesn't look like Elige. You could be like, well, really Fugly's entry fragging because Fugly's going in like this and Elige is behind him. Okay, Elige still made the first interaction out of A main. They end up winning this round. It was covered multiple times, based on CLG basically pushing when the bomb isn't even fucking being planted and it's still down. But anyway, so again, Elige here, on the default, this is an anti-eco. I think they're taking precautions. They're making sure they aren't going to get pushed. Somebody mollies the vents. And this is actually the round that I covered, where Elige is clearly with the main force. Look at the mini-map, again. And he's coming out of checkers with the main force, whereas you have Fugly on one edge, and you had Fosick on the other, and they just got they got multi-fragged by a fucking P250 no armor. So, can we necessarily say in that round it's pretty obvious, like Elige's entry fragging. Okay, this round, Elige has a Tech 9, and they're pretty much he's got A main. I think Adren makes a pick out of blue door with his op. Now, there's going to be rounds where you're searching for a pick with an op. Obviously, you're like Apex is the entry fragger on Titan historically, but just because they had rounds where, you know, Kenny S would go in there and he'd frag. There, by no means, by the way, could you say that Elige's entry fragging on this round. I will concede that. This round he did not. He clearly had the bomb. Sometimes you just have the bomb. You have better utility. And sometimes you're just going off of that. So clearly he was throwing smokes and flashes out of A main, and he was planting the bomb. And I think it was Fugly who was in front of him. I wasn't paying perfect attention. Now this is a full eco. It's not necessarily going to matter what happens on this round in terms of like roles. They could just be spawn based or situationally based. But I think they're all going to come towards Squeaky or A main. Yeah, they come through A main. I think they flash in through here, and Elige is kind of making the first interaction. That's sort of like a pinch play on an eco where you're just having people come out of Squeaky door room and main at the same time. Now we get to look at an actual gun run. I wish there was actually like a feature. Sorry, a feature in HLTV or a feature in like ESEA or whatever, where you could actually sort rounds statistically based on like gun rounds only. Like you could click like this button, like you check it, and it's like gun rounds only, and it just shows statistics from when both teams had a buy, or both teams had like full armor. So here, Adren gets a pick. Yes, I think you got a pick on B, but clearly, Elige is like entering into cash, or into into checkers, and is like the main force. I mean, that's clearly an entry into there after the initial like pick. Just because you're an entry fragger doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be making the pick. Like, we could look back at this round, and I'll tell you why. We're like, yeah, of course, what the entry fragger means. He got the first frag. That's the entry frag. Therefore, he's the entry fragger. Not necessarily, because what if the CT pushes into him? Like, what if the CT pushes into the T? Like, what if you're just minding your own fucking business and you're lurking, and somebody, like, pushes mid-warehouse, which is exactly what happened here, by the way. So on this play, Hayes, thinking, like, with some kind of a pug mentality, like, Herder, I'm just going to look at the minimap, walk into mid-warehouse, and nobody will know I'm here. And he dies, and he puts his team in a 4v5. So that's not specifically Adren is entry fragging. Clearly, Hayes is behind enemy lines there, and he pushed, and he died based on a push. So Elige is still getting the entry frag, despite Hayes' shitty decision of pushing into mid-warehouse. I mean, it works great in pugs. Shit, I do it all the fucking time. But that's not necessarily an entry frag. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so that's another example of... he goes, holy smokes, Hayes. Yeah, that's why you died. Because Adren made a nice shot, not because you made a bad decision. Nice one, James Cobb. So, again, you have Elige here in A main, default, blah, blah, blah. I think, actually, Fugly got picked. He's lurking, and JDM did work, by the way, on this map in cash, just holding down B. One thing that you'll see Liquid doing here is they want to pick an op with Adren. And Adren just gets fragged. And then Nitro goes to refrag, and Nitro gets fragged. And then Elige goes to refrag, and finally he actually lands the refrag. So did Elige entry frag here? No, not by any means. Not by any means. However, there are going to be rounds where you're like, okay, let's not do an exit, let's not do an execute, let's pick the op, and let's entry with an op. Let's go for an op entry. And a lot of teams do this who have skilled entry. And, Adren went for it. Now, mind you, like a lot of people have pointed out, maybe you shouldn't be going for the op pick against another opper and make it an op versus op when you would clearly have an advantage if you were to search for a pick against a rifler. But he knows JDM plays B, and he's going against a pick there. And I think they wanted to attack JDM. Here, that's an entry. I know you can't see it. I fast-forwarded kind of at an awkward time. But Elige is at least going to make the first interaction. And by virtue of that, he ended up dying to JDM's op. Sorry. So if you were to look at, for instance, every other gun round. So now we're in round 11. Okay, Elige is here in A main, like normal, just watching for the A main aggression. I think this time Nitro went to go pick JDM with the op, and he died. Op versus op, for some reason. Now look, they're in A main. Look at the minimap. Where's the majority of the terrorists? They're in A. Who's making the first interaction on the bomb site they're trying to take? Elige. Elige gets the pick. Where's Fugly? He's lurking on the other site, right? So Elige gets the entry frag. You know, he's making the first interaction out of A main. And I believe they had Flowsick in blue door room, and Flowsick couldn't get anything going. Adren was following behind Elige. Nitro got picked already, and Fugly is lurking on the other map. Clearly, on that round, Elige is entry frag. So that's another example of Elige entry frag. And this round, it's a fucking full eco. They could just run in there, whoever the fuck cares. I think Elige actually did run in first, by the way, but Doesn't fucking matter. It's an eco. So here we have another gun round. I think there's only one more gun round after this. So again, default, watching the boost, watching a main, watching, Squeaky, watching this. I think this round actually, Nitro's watching the counter boost, and he turns away for like a split second. And then Cutler boosts up and kills him. It was like the craziest shit. Like, just my luck kind of stuff. I think here, Finesse pop flashes himself into a main, and it kind of throws off their timing. And Flowstick actually opened up blue door when they pushed so he could get that frag, and he didn't get that frag. And then Fugly went out. Elige got counter flashed. This is clearly not a round where Elige is entry fragging. Clearly. But that I will concede. So this is another round where Elige is not entry fragging. I think out of all these rounds, though, the majority of them, you could say it's Elige. Other than the fact, I mean, you could say Elige is entry fragging, but he just got counter flashed. Like, sometimes, as an entry fragger, you're going to get counter flashed, and you're going to be blind as dicks. Like, what do you want to do? Run in there even though you're blind as dicks because you're the entry fragger? Like, it doesn't make sense situationally. So, of course, this is going to situationally change. Here, he clearly doesn't. Adren died last round with a pistol. I don't know if you could see it, but he basically wanted to save, and they killed him after time was up, and he didn't get the opportunity to, so he had, like, $200 and, like, Glock no armor. So he was like, I'll go out mid-main first, and Nitro went after him to refrag him, and Elige just went up on boost. So they kind of switched roles there, traditionally. Now here's a round where Elige has the bomb, and they're going in A main. I think here you'll see Elige is going out first, actually, with that bomb. So despite the fact, like, you could look at this, we could even look at it in slow-mo. Despite the fact that, yes, Elige has the bomb. Yes, Elige is throwing a smoke. Where is the first interaction being made on this specific round? Like a majority interaction, not just like teasing or anything. I'll do it after Elige throws a smoke. And the flash. This is a peek. Elige is making peeks. He's out there. He's actually going out with the bomb. And people are coming out of the blue door as well. But despite the fact that Elige doesn't frag anybody or kill anybody, he's still the first one out, so to speak. Which is something they could do. It's kind of silly, him losing the bomb or whatnot, but they end up winning the round anyway. So that's the whole half. I think that's pretty decisive proof. You could count what you want and see for yourself.